Okay, we're officially recording now. So my goal for this session would be to answer any questions anybody might have about week 4 and week 5. I know some of you, I've given more time if you noticed on the redos on many things because I think some of you are still catching up. So, but the current session itself is all about if you have any questions from week 4, week 5 material. So let me start with week 4. Are there any particular things that you want to go over that you want to ask? So I do have some things I can give it to you if you absolutely come up empty-handed with questions.
For week 4, I'm still having a trouble with the arrows, the negative and positive.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Very good.
So if you could go over that again, I
All
would
right.
appreciate it.
So how about let's pick an example because I think that's always the way to go is if you don't understand something, I think it's better if you just work it out.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and pick something that actually uh, will help you answer that question. So let's say I give you this compound, okay?
Okay.
All right, there's a few things that you have to do that you have to be clinical and probably systematic on. Probably not change 4 or 5 or anything that you may do, okay?
All right.
First thing you have to do is figure out the electronegativity difference. And if you go to the electronegativity table that I have given, you can actually calculate the electronegativity difference. And that will be what?
0.09.
What is the electronegativity difference between phosphorus and chlorine?
0.9.
All right, very good. So that difference turned out to be 0.9, right?
Yep.
And according to the range I've given you, if it's above 0.6 to say 1.6, 1.7, before 1.7, I guess 1.6 would be work just fine.
Yeah.
If it's within this region, what type of bond do we have?
That is the polar covalent.
That is correct, bond polarity. So the first thing you have to do is determine the electronegativity difference, and that'll tell you what type of bond you have, and I just heard you say it's polar covalent. That's the second thing you have to do, right? Now, and the third thing I have always asked you to do is draw the electron structures. Okay, draw the electron structures. And to do that, you have to figure out which of the two things is least in count that typically goes at the center, whichever one is lot in quantity goes on the outside. And I noticed phosphorus will probably likely go in the center and the CLs will probably go out. But before that, you have to go to the periodic table and figure out how many valence electrons does each of these elements have. And looking at the periodic table, I know phosphorus is in group 5A and Cl is in group 7A.
Okay.
And what that tells me is I'm going to switch colors here because I think to emphasize my point, 5 indicates, again, I'm only trying to relate to everything we have learned. I'm not trying to teach you anything new. So 5 indicates there's 5 valence electrons. Again, this was one of the quiz questions, I believe, or also was a homework question in one of the homeworks. I believe it was homework 2. How many valence electrons does a particular element has to do with what's the Roman numeral? And that's exactly the same knowledge we're getting back again. And chlorine is in 7A, so it's got 7 valence electrons. So the 5 valence electrons on the central atom, we're just going to evenly distribute them. I know your question's a little bit further, Peggy, but I'm going to answer them in the way so that someone else might have problems with the first 3 steps. So that's why I'm answering it systematically, okay?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Because this was what I was going to, my stupid question.
Okay.
Do you base the whatever the, like the P being in the center on the number of valence electrons?
No, on the basis of the actual count. P is just 1, there's 3 CLs.
Oh. Okay.
The other way won't work because it just 3 chlorines can be in the middle and a phosphorus can be outside.
So
That
if there's
usually is the case.
if there's more, the higher the number on like the
Yes.
CL, then it goes in the
Yes. Well, you know, I don't want to partially say what you asked was wrong. Yes, the number of valence electrons does dictate, but there are cases where they both have equal valence electrons. So then if you follow that rule, whichever one with the least valence goes to the center, well, you know, that is not a wrong approach to follow, but there are compounds that might not follow that trend, where I'm going to show you today where there's 2 elements in the compound that don't, they both have same number of valence electrons, then you have a problem.
Right. Okay.
You always go by the least count. Here we have 1, here we have 3. So
Okay.
1 goes at the center, okay?
Thank you so much.
No, not a problem. And then you have 7 valence electrons on the outer. Now this is something I have done separately. So what I normally do is I go get my Cl and I know I have 7. I have to split it into pairs of 2. That's kind of a rule. That's a hidden rule. If you have 7, 6, 8, however many you have on the outer, you have to split whatever many you have into pairs of 2, okay? So if I split 7 electrons into pairs of 2, which is what I have done here, I am left with 1 odd electron, right? Because
Yep.
7 can only be split into pairs of 2, 3 pairs of 2, right?
Okay.
A pair is 2, and if I have to split 7 electrons into pairs of 2, I'll end up with 3 pairs. That means I'm still left with that 1 electron, right?
Mhm.
That 1 electron is what's going to bond with 3 of the 5 electrons on the phosphorus. Now keep in mind, again, the basic is 2 electrons make a bond. As simple as that. 2 points make a line, so 2 electrons make a bond. Okay, that's the very, very foundational knowledge you need to know. Okay. Now all I have done here is I've taken the Cl and split the 7 electrons into pairs of 2, and so I'll have 3 pairs and I have an odd electron. Now again, I told in my videos repeatedly, you don't have to put them exactly where I put them every single time. You can put it anywhere you like, okay? As long as you can draw a line connecting the red and the blues, okay? You can also put it here. It doesn't matter where that chlorine goes, as long as it's containing the right number of electrons. Where you position them has absolutely no bearing because it is identical. All right? Now let me go get a different color. Now this is what I meant by 2 electrons make a bond. This is foundational as it gets in a chemistry class. So we connect the red and the blue, red and the blue, red and the blue. Okay? Is that clear, Lowell?
Yes, got it.
Okay. Now what does that mean is we are left with 2 electrons on the phosphorus, right? That are unused, right? We can erase them now. I didn't do it earlier because again, some people have preference on how they want it. So I'm just going to get rid of this, okay? And then write it right next to it. Okay, so that's a lone pair, right?
Right.
Because those electrons are unused. Basically, lone pairs are nothing but unused electrons, okay? It's the same on the outer atom or the inner atom. If your electrons are unused, they would stay together as a pair, right? Now, this is where Peggy's question comes in, for which I'm going to go get another color, okay? If you look at the electronegativity table, there's 2 things you have to keep in mind before you start writing arrows. What is the bond polarity? Is this nonpolar covalent, polar covalent, or ionic? We did determine from our difference it is polar covalent, okay? So that means it gets an arrow with a tail that looks like this. Now which direction this will point would entirely depend on the actual electronegativity of phosphorus and chlorine. If you look at the table, on the electronegativity table, which one do you think has more electronegativity, phosphorus or chlorine?
Chlorine.
Okay, so whichever one, the difference tells you whether you use the arrow or not, okay? And the actual values tell you which directions the arrow point. Now, the head of the arrow points to the side with the more electronegative, and the tail points to the side with the least electronegative of the two. Okay? Now that phosphorus is also shared by 2 other chlorines, so you repeat the process one more time. Now it doesn't matter whether the arrow is above the bond or below the bond. Okay, some people get fixated on that. So I'm going to come back and actually give a statement here. This might help people that are actually watching. This head points to the more electronegative of the two. More electronegative, and the tail points to the less electronegative. That's how you assign arrows. That was Peggy's question. I think she's not currently a participant, but you can see that that's less electronegative, right?
Right.
This is how you assign arrows for it. Now you assign this is a condition only meant for polar covalent. You cannot use the arrows for non-polar covalent or ionic. You cannot, okay? What this really means, it's a 50-50. It's neither one direction. Only when it's a 50-50, that's a polar covalent condition, you use an arrow. We're going to look at examples of non-polar covalent and ionic today. But this is the first thing that Peggy asked me. So this is how you do it. So that's how you do the electron structures. And then this is how you assign polarity depending on what you have determined. Here we have determined it's polar covalent, which means we must use the arrows, the specific style of arrow. You cannot use anything else, the specific style of arrow. And which side the head, this is the head of the arrow, this is the tail of the arrow. The head points to the element with more electronegativity, and the tail points to the side with less electronegativity. Right?
Right.
Now that is step D. I'm going to bring back my color so that obviously that's D. That's indicating the green arrows. And then let's go back to the blue. And then the next step I had you all do was E, which is the decrypted code. The decrypted code is more like calligraphy. You have to write exactly what you see on the electron structure, okay? Peggy, I explained it. Were you able to see it?
Yes. Yeah, I got it.
Does that make sense now?
Yeah, you know, like you said, I was giving everybody them.
Yeah, that's what I refer to in my comments, is you can give them arrows to everybody, all right?
Why not? They all deserve them.
Like A's, right?
All right, so we're on the penultimate kind of subsection of it, which is the decrypted code. You have one central atom, so A. There's 3 outer atoms, so X3, and then there's only one lone pair. The E refers to a lone pair, not how many electrons. So there's only one pair, so it's AX3E. What is that in terms of our table? If you go to the electron geometry table, AX3E is, it's tetrahedral, right?
Who?
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's triagonal pyramidal.
No, that's molecular geometry.
Oh shoot, I'm in the wrong one.
Yeah, electron geometry. We're still in week 4. Okay, that's my bad. I guess you were a second late to.
Yeah. So
you missed that. I said that at the very beginning. We're starting with week 4, and then moving on to week 5. Okay.
Well, okay. So even on my electron pair geometry one, it says
It's tetrahedral.
I changed it the day I posted, I think a day after. So if you had downloaded,
I probably have the old one then. I'm gonna trash that.
Yeah, the newer one has been there for a while now.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to, you know, be conscious of wasting paper. I print everything. So
the only thing I didn't do was I put both electron geometry. I mean, I put the molecular geometry for both weeks, which then I realized, well, I taught electron first and then molecular second. So I went back and took out that sheet. There was nothing wrong with the information. It's just I put the same information twice.
Okay, I got it now. I got the correct one.
So you have another sheet in there that's different than the one that has the decrypted notation and the electron geometry?
Yes.
There's another one? Okay.
Yeah, there are two separate tables. If you go to week 4 and download the electron geometry, that is electron geometry. Again, you don't need to memorize any of this. You're in seat, you're online person. You just have to have the table ready before you start your test. Okay, just make sure you have it in front of you.
Okay.
That will have a different answer on the other table.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Could you repeat? You went when you were doing the AX3E. You said A stands for, X stands for, 3 stands for.
A stands for the central atom. Okay. A stands for how many central atoms? Well, I don't think we have or will ever look at one with more than one central atom. X refers to the number of outer atoms. Okay. And E refers to the lone pair. Again, E refers to not just one electron or number of lone pairs. That's what it refers to.
So whenever you see an E, you know that's going to be a polar molecule?
Yes, that is correct. So that's what we're getting at. So that's E. And I believe this was F, which is the geometry itself. And G is this molecule polar or non-polar? Typically, when you have lone pairs, it is polar. Even if your compound is ionic, it is still polar. I will get to that in just a minute. But this is a complete rundown of an electron geometry of a molecule. Now, this will not change much. I don't think I can change that because it's entirely not up to me to change the chemical concept. So this probably will not change between anything else. So just make sure you download the correct table from the correct week, and I've labeled them very precisely so you can't get them confused. But I highly recommend when you take the day of the final, before you start, download every single thing like the periodic table, the electronegativity table, the electron geometry table, molecular geometry table, and a bunch of other charts that we will learn in the upcoming week. Make sure you have everything in front of you, because 2 hours runs by really quick. And if you're going to be at that time trying to go and search for something, and in the process you sign yourself out of the test, then your attempt becomes pointless. And these are just cosmetic things that will help you when you take the test. I don't think that's anything to do with the knowledge itself. So let's look at two more compounds. The first one would be, again, oops. That's not what I want to show. I'm trying to be consistent to use the Midway template that I've created so that it's much more sensible to use that, because I work for Midway. So all the remainder of the videos would have the Midway template, which is the indication of the colors of the eggish yellow and the blue. So I've created this gradient template, so this will be on all the quizzes and homeworks, and everything else you see will be in this format. Of course, if you print it down black and white, you can't see it, but in color it will show up. All right, the next compound we're going to look at it would be I will tell you two more things that I have not quite got on, but let's start with the easy ones. Say MgCl2. You just got to be clinical exactly the way you've been doing forever now. So first thing is, do the electronegativity different, which is what, Lowell? Since I'm seeing you.
Okay. All right. Magnesium is 1.2, and chloride we know is 3.0. So it's going to be
3.0. That'll be 1.8, right?
1.8. Yes.
So that's good. You told me the actual values, because we do need that later. So 1.8. So this is about 1.7, right?
Right.
It's clearly about 1.6, the range. So it will be ionic, right?
Right.
Okay, there's two informations here. The bond polarity is ionic. This is bond polarity, not molecule polarity. Bond polarity. That's the bond polarity. Excuse me for a second. I lost my ink there. It's bond polarity. Okay, that's the first thing you do. The second thing that we do is, well, first you calculate the electronegativity difference, that's B, and this is step B actually. This is bond polarity. And the 3 is the electronic structure, and just like Peggy asked, which one do I put at the center? Which one do I put outside? Well, magnesium is least in quantity. So I'm going to get a different color actually here. So magnesium goes at the center. Now, before you do that, you can do this and then come back. Magnesium is in group 2A. So that means it's got 2 valence electrons. And chlorine is in group 7A. So it has 7 valence electrons. You don't really do anything to the center. You just come back and put the 2 electrons. Again, you can put them diagonally across. You can put them, you know, right next to each other. It really doesn't matter because these things are very abstract. And just because you draw it a certain way on a paper doesn't mean that's how it really is in a real solid of magnesium chloride. So that's not the case. And now the important part, I think this is where some people I noticed on the homework made mistakes, but most of them had no problems with this. Chlorine had 7 electrons. Like I said, you got to split it into pairs of 2. If I split 7 electrons into pair of 2, I'll be having 3 pairs of 2. So that means Cl has got 7 electrons, of which 3 is paired. The other is the 1 odd electron that remains. Now it's just a matter of connecting the odd electrons from the chlorine to the magnesium and magnesium to the chlorine. Does that seem to make sense?
Do you always draw them like that when you've got that situation?
Yes, yes.
Okay. In a linear fashion?
Yes, yes. Okay. Again, as I said, this is also correct. I'm not going to bother with the color here. If this was magnesium and this was chlorine, if you had written like this, I mean, again, test is multiple choice, so you may not even have to worry about that being a problem. Okay. I see you're asking, should it have to be linear, right?
Right.
I just drew it, not linear here. Both are correct, okay? Well, it's linear because of the geometry. Later you will confirm it that it's linear. But again, if you didn't draw it this way in your electron structure, I'm not going to hold it against you. That's not something, that's such a big deal. These things are very abstract. So the less complex you keep it yourself, then the more easy it's going to be on you. Okay? Again, don't get bogged down with this actual configuration that is okay if it's a little off. Okay? Because I can count electrons, and if I see the right count, most likely your structure is correct. I'm not gonna, again, this is not something you ought to know to understand to answer a test question. The test question, something would already be written and worked out for you, okay?
Right.
So this is not a decision that you have to make on a test. Hey, is it straight or does it will be already done for you. So you'll only be, it's like a TSA checkpoint. No matter where you are in the airport, you cannot just get lost. You have to only go a certain way because they block every single way. It's like a puzzle. They drive you through that narrow passage, but you cannot really go anywhere else in the airport.
I love your analogies.
So it's just a multiple choice test. I would have already figured that out for you. So you just have to select which one is right or wrong. So
well, Dr. K, you could go one step further and just give us the answers too.
Yes, that's right. So now, Peggy, since you are the one that brought up the idea of it being, how do I draw the arrows? Now, I'll get the pink color here. So what did we say the bond polarity was?
Ionic.
Ionic, right? So we cannot use this. This is not, we can't use it because that's not 50-50. Ionic is 100-0, okay? So you have to only use a plus and a minus for ionic. A full plus and a full minus, okay? Who gets the plus and who gets the minus? Well, we know I've been saying this from day one. metals lose electrons, so they have to be positive, right?
Yep.
Mg is a metal, and chlorine is a non-metal, so that gets negative. If you, there's two right ways to do it. You can stop here, but this is not the way I have explained. Because magnesium is also attached to another chlorine, you put another plus, and Cl gets a negative. Now, only when you write this, everything I have taught you makes sense. If you don't, conventionally, people don't show the second plus and the minus because it's understood, but chemists understand it, non-chemists don't. But because I told you, what is the Roman numeral of magnesium? It's 2A, right?
Yes.
And magnesium is a metal, so how many can it lose?
It can, what did you say, 2?
2, right? So how many positive charges do we have? Plus 2. It all seems to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah, now it does. Okay. I was just getting totally.
That's why I'm teaching based on a concept map, not on a chapter.
Thank God.
You learned it in a chapter. This would be like probably in the first place, and then something that you needed to learn this will be in like chapter 6. You will not see, okay, you were teaching me chapter 2. Now you're teaching me something so unrelated. How does it make sense? In the end, you know, at the end of it, I will come back and tie it. By that time, it will be so late that it will make no sense to you, right?
Right.
This is, you do full positive and full negative for ionic, the arrow for polar covalent, and nothing for non-polar covalent, okay? Doesn't get nothing. All right, now comes, we just finished D. This is D, which is assigning charges, which is bond polarity in terms of arrows. And then the decrypted one, you have one central atom, you have 2 outer atoms. Is there a lone pair on the magnesium?
No.
Okay, then you don't have anything else. Now you go to get the electron geometry of AX2 from the table, and that will be linear, right?
Yep.
Okay. And well, I'll tell you what, if a polar covalent compound with a lone pair is polar, ionic compounds are always polar, irrespective of what the value is, whether there's E or not, okay? Let me make that statement here. Ionic compounds are polar, whether they have E or not, it doesn't matter. Ionic compounds are always polar. There's no exceptions to this. If that is an exception, then none of us would be actually able to feel the salt in our food. You wonder why the oil floats at the top, the end of the cooking, whereas you cannot ever have the salt floating up, because the salt is ionic, because it's sodium chloride, Na and Cl, which is why it's polar. It dissolves in water, whereas oil is unsaturated. It is non-polar because it doesn't have E, and it's a non-polar completely, which is why it floats, doesn't mix with oil, whereas your stable salt cannot be recovered once it's cooked. That's it, it's over, end of story. So ionic compounds are always polar. There's not even a second thought whether it's polar or non-polar. Ionic compounds. And again, that goes to back, I already have told you this knowledge in several lectures back. Ionic compound, how do I know something is ionic? Again, that's something we've already answered several lectures ago, I think week 2. If it's a metal and a non-metal, it is ionic. Simple. We've answered that as well. I'm trying to relate everything we've learned back to everything we will learn or have learned. If not, none of this will make no sense, okay? And that's how you do an ionic compound systematically from an electron geometry perspective. Last one. Okay, so that'll be, let's do OF4. Oh, I gotta do this. Okay, last compound, which is what I want to drive the point across, which is OF4, or OF4. Can you tell me what the first step obviously is calculating the EN difference, which is
0.5. It's
0.5, right?
Yep.
So what does that tell us about the bond polarity?
Nonpolar covalent.
Very good. Nonpolar covalent, right? Or nonpolar, both are the same. So what does it mean is C? Okay, now C is something you have to, I mean, again, on a test you don't have to, but on a homework you probably have to draw. So let me get a different color here. So oxygen is in group 6A. So that is 6 valence electrons. And there's fluorine, which is in 7A. That means it's got 7 valence electrons. Again, going back to your question, which one goes at the center? Well, oxygen is least in count, so that goes at the center. And you don't need to pair or anything, just spread out the 6 electrons. Again, does it have to be perfectly circular? I mean, these are things students get bogged down themselves too much into this cosmetics. And then I have to repeatedly tell them, no, don't worry about it. Only then they would actually get over it. So there's 6 total. And then let me get a different color for the chlorine. As always, for the outer ones, we try to split them into pairs of 2, however many we can get. So we get 3 pairs of 2 and an odd electron. So with that said, now we go position our odd electrons around the odd electron from the chlorine. Now there is no perfect way. Like I prefer to do it in such a way that it's either clockwise or counterclockwise. So that's again my way of doing. If you don't do it, there's no right or wrong way about it. Again, you can go clockwise, counterclockwise, or you can do it random. I don't think these are very, this is as abstract as chemistry can get, and I don't think you have to really follow a certain sequence.
Okay, you've got chlorine here in your diagram, but we have.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay. Let's
see, I'm paying attention.
Yes, you are, which is good. Okay. So we're back again. So let me get my fluorine. I guess they're all the same, so I guess that's probably why. So yep. Fluorine is 7 electrons, and then you keep 3. Yes. So keep going. Again, I guess maybe because I'm working on my tablet and I always have more room below than above, I'm going clockwise. But if you're working on a paper and you don't have the constraints that I do, I think you probably will go clockwise or counterclockwise, whatever you have more space on. So now we got our 4 fluorines. Again, connect the odd electrons to odd electrons and oxygen. And that's your electron structure. We're left with a lone pair. You don't do any arrows, none of that, because it's non-polar covalent, okay? Well, why, if no one has so far asked me, why don't we put an arrow or nothing on the non-polar covalent, means it's not even 50-50, like it is perfectly shared, okay? When we take a cookie and cut it exactly half, that there's not even a jagged edge on each piece of the cookie, we call it the perfect slice. But I don't think you can ever break a cookie so perfect, there's not even a little bit of a jagged edge, right? You have to have a perfect straight line between the 2 pieces of the cookie you cut. And if you can achieve that, that would be non-polar covalent. I mean, it's perfectly shared, okay? Whereas a polar covalent, there is still that little chance of something dominating in the sharing process. And an ionic, there is no question. Whoever is the higher electronegativity wins the race, okay?
Okay.
So when we say non-polar covalent, that difference is so small that neither of the elements dominate in the process, and they tend to share so perfectly between them, okay?
Okay, so non-polar covalent.
So we are going to skip C because we are going to skip D because the bond is non-polar covalent, so we don't need to do any arrows or anything. That's our D. And this is the electron structure which I've drawn, which is this. I'm aligning it with exactly the way the homework was done, okay? That's what those ABCDs are for. Yeah. E is the decrypted code. We have one A, one central atom. As I said, I don't think you will ever have a question anywhere on the test that'll be more than one A, okay? Because I've not taught you that. And there's 4 fluorines, so AX4. There's 1 lone pair, so it's E, right? Again, we're still in the electron geometry, so AX4E is square, trigonal bipyramidal, right? Oh. Trigonal bipyramidal, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that chart has been fixed for a while. So if you had downloaded it that very first day when it was posted back whenever it was, then that's probably why you have that information. But you didn't have that problem on your homework, so you must have used the right chart then.
Yeah, I got it. I just didn't have it out here for this. I had the old one.
The only issue you had was just the arrows. Otherwise, yours was very good. So finally, F. Is this molecule polar or non-polar?
I'm going to say it's polar.
Yes, because it's got E, right? So this is a classic case of an exception. The bonds are non-polar, but the molecule itself is polar.
Okay.
It's an exception, but I have taught you this. You've already done this on the homework. We're just redoing it one more time just for an improved learning, okay?
I needed clarification on that. So, I mean, I was doing it, but I didn't understand it. There's a difference.
Yes.
I wanted to be comfortable doing it.
Yes. So
oh, and you need to give me 2 more dots on that F over here. I only got 5.
Oh.
Because you're going to post this, you know you're going to get mad later.
Yeah, I'm going to have, I don't think anybody would be so hard on that one, but
I would.
We have to have it right so that it's presented correctly.
Yep.
But again, I think no one had problems with that. But again, some people write it differently. I've also seen people, instead of writing it as a bond, they are writing it like this, as a shared. That can lead to some confusion down the road because they think that they're confusing this with this, and it just leads to some confusion. So I highly recommend this, but if you still want to, use this method of drawing, that's fine. Some people, I guess that's entirely to do with their prior chemistry. If they have been to a chemistry class elsewhere in high school or somewhere else, some other instructor must have told them that pattern and they're so caught up with that. And I don't want to change their way of writing. They can do that only if they make sure they would get it right. Again, on a test, this should not be a problem because it will already be drawn for you. Okay?
Yeah.
So there is one thing I do want to get across, which is this. And I think I have purposefully held it for this Zoom session, and I probably will post it. I don't think there's no need for a video, but I'm going to have you try this. This is an extension of knowledge from, see if you really understood week 3 homework. If you don't understand week 3 homework still, maybe you can use that knowledge in a week 4 problem. So let's say I give you platinum or fluoride. I want you to do all the components of, or actually, yeah, I believe, does your table has platinum, the electronegativity table, PT? I think it does because I used it.
Yes, it does.
Okay. I want you to do the components A through, I believe it's G for this compound. I'll give you like, I don't know, 10 minutes. That's probably plenty of time. I want you to first think about what I have given you. I'm having you do the same components you saw the homework, the last 3 examples you saw today. But this time, I am giving you a name and have you do that. You just have to do one thing, which is what? What is that you don't see here that you saw in the last 3 examples?
the formula? I don't see the formula, right? I mean, that's what we got to do first. Come up with.
What is that one thing you saw consistently in all three examples that's not seen here? What is different?
Platinum.
I've given you a name.
Right.
Yes, that's what she said. The formula. You didn't give us the.
So first you gotta figure out the formula. Once you figure it out, then you would use your knowledge of what the Roman numeral 4 means for platinum and what does it mean for fluorine. Again, I'm tying week 2, 3, and again putting them into the context of 4. I'm going to give you and Lowell, I think you're the only two that are currently on. Take 10 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Do what you can and then tell me what you have and we'll go from there. This is definitely a question you can more likely expect because this is the moment I worked to get you all to do something. And I know some people did it. Because I don't see you guys every day, I did do this in my EC class, and I think people were first stalled for a second. They didn't know what to do. They just completely forgot about week 3. And then eventually they realized, oh, yes, we're in week 4. And then their thoughts caught up to them. And in the end, everybody did it. It's just that blackout moment that you'll have. Oh no, he never told me this. But
Yes, you did.
a little bit of that build-up knowledge.
Okay, I don't have PT on any of my electron negativity value tables.
You don't see PT?
No.
What do you see? I mean, let me grab.
I have PB, and I have PB.
Let's do PB then. It's not a big deal. Let's do PB, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to actually get you to write platinum instead. I mean, I thought platinum was there. I guess that at least the table I gave may not be there. So let's.
And I can be blind too. I have glasses on, but that doesn't mean it.
I don't. I think you may be right too. So let me do this. So lead 4 fluoride.
Okay.
So I want you to write components A through G, just like how we've been doing for the last 3 sets of problems. You just cannot forget what you've learned in week 1, 2, and 3. If you miss any parts of it, then it is definitely going to affect your workout routine. So let me get some water. I'll give you guys 10 minutes.
All right.
Head back with you all in just 10 minutes.
Okay, what's the symbol for lead?
That's PB.
It is PB? Okay.
I just looked it up.
Thank you.
I've got a sheet for everything. That's where I get lost. I got so many sheets that are coming out my ears.
Okay, then we're going to do the ABC.
Okay, maybe I'll help you all to get started on something if you've not already figured. What's the symbol for lead?
My girl told me.
It's PB.
PB, very good. All right, that's all you need to get started. If you are not sure what lead stood for, it's PB. So do you guys have a formula for lead-6 fluoride?
I think so.
Okay, what is it?
I put PbF4.
F4 or F6?
F6.
Oh crap, 6.
This
Yeah.
is the reason why I do this is there will be an answer choice on the test that will have PbF4.
Yep. And if you
So
look
some
at
people just casually when they look at it, 4 and 6 would seem the same. So all right, this is the first step in the process. If you can't have this done, more likely solving A through G would become very, very difficult for you. Okay. Now, here's the bottom line question. There was a couple of questions that people had on my in-seat class. I think that's because they completely forgot the week 3 material. What does this mean in terms of ions? How did we know that it's only PbF6? What it can be Pb4, F7, things like that. What does it mean? The 6 is only tagged to the lead, right?
Right.
So that's Pb6, and lead is a metal, right? So it's plus. Fluorine, again, fluoride comes from fluorine, which is in 7A, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means it's a non-metal. It can only take one more electron to get to stability, right? Of 8, right?
Right.
Remember that? I know it's a week, 2 weeks ago, but it needs that one electron to get to 8, right? So it's 1 minus. So if we swap the numbers, again, this could be a question on its own that I tested you all in week 6. But again, you can't forget it. That's how I got PbF6, right? All right. So the first point of focus is the electronegativity difference, which is what, Peggy?
2.1.
Okay. So is it ionic, polar covalent, or non-polar covalent?
Ionic.
Very good. Which aligns with our general knowledge of what ionic is, right?
Yep.
Metal and a non-metal. Pb is metal. Fluoride is non-metal. So that's good. So everything seems to be working well so far. And C, electron dot structure, right? Now, this is where people were not quite able to transfer that knowledge, even though they did find if they start off with this, I don't know how that will really affect them, but Pb goes at the center, right?
Right.
Yeah.
How many am I going to distribute around Pb?
6.
Very good, because the 6 means it's only the 6 that it can actually distribute, right?
Yep.
Right.
And then let me get a different color for my fluorine, and there's 6 of them, right?
Yes.
So it will be perfect. So I split the 7 into pairs of 2. That means I will have 3 pairs of 2 per fluorine and an odd electron. Now, this is the point where a lot of you may have struggled. I don't think I've quite tested this yet, but I don't need a separate video. I think people can watch the Zoom, because this is something of an extension of knowledge, and I think this one video will be sufficient to help that point across. So you connect every odd electron. And I don't think you'll have such a big compound that's all made up. Okay, I don't think you'll have PbF6 really. I don't think so. But to be consistent with what we have learned, let's go get our colors. And it's ionic, right?
Yes.
So that means Pb would have plus, full plus, F would have minus. You do that 6 times because there's 6. The lead is shared by 6 fluorines. And
Okay.
that seems to make sense with Pb being plus 6, right?
Well, if fluorine is 7,
Yeah.
what happens to the other one?
What do you mean 7?
I mean, it's got 7 Valence
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so 7 means, okay, don't confuse this, how to get F1 minus and this 7 here, okay? This is to get the formulae, you have to have 1 electron to get to 8. So that's why this is 1 minus. But it's in the compound, to get that 1 pairing electron, you have to split the 7 into pairs of 3. 3 pairs of,
Oh, okay, I'm with you. See, okay.
okay, that's why I have both in front of you.
Mhm.
This is, we are splitting it, well, because that 1 minus is that 1 electron. That's what I'm trying to get across. You see this 1 minus here, that is that 1 electron you see here that I'm drawing it in big circle right here. That's for 1 fluorine, but then there's 5 more of them. You do the stability thing to determine the formulae. You don't use that 1 minus to draw the structure itself. You go back to the 7 to split it into pairs of 2. Okay. Now, the reason I'm saying all this is because at the end of the course, you may have got an A, but if you can replicate this on a exam that involves general chemistry questions, then I think your A will be of no value, is what I'm saying. Because this is how they will test you. They won't ask everything straightforward on those tests. Things will be skewed a little bit, and they expect you to think about how you're going to approach the problem and solve. And so you need to know both. How does the Roman numeral is getting tagged? How does fluorine becomes 1 minus? And how does fluorine has 7 and it's split into pairs of 2? You have to know the whole thing to really understand this concept. And I think this is probably how they will test you on those exams. They won't make things too straightforward. And also keep in mind, most of those exams don't allow calculators, which means you're also limited by how many questions you can get through without actually doing a calculation. So that means you have to really know the knowledge more than just being able to calculate numbers. And you've seen it. How much math have we done all this time?
So the PB is positive. Can you say that again? Why it's positive and the other one is?
Because lead is a metal. Metals always lose. Remember our week 2?
They're always positive. Okay.
Yeah, that's, again, I am not teaching anything that is not being told before. None of this material is like brand new thrown at you. Non-metals gain, which is why they are negative. Okay.
Yes, for me, I have to keep everything in order in my brain or I get mixed up. So I'd be helpful to me to go on and put the positive on the PV and the on the FL when I write the formula, then I won't screw it up.
Yeah, this is literally, when I gave you this question and had you all solve, literally the first part that I did right here inside this red bracket, that is just homework 3. So everyone should be able to do that. This is just straight up homework 3. Whether it had electronegativity difference on the table or not, that's completely different story. But everyone should be able to do what's within that bracket, right? We've already done D by assigning charges because it's ionic. So that's D. And then E is, what is the decrypted code? Well, it's A, 1 central atom, PD. There's 6 fluorine atoms, so X6. There are no lone pairs left on the lead. What that means, there's no pair of electrons left unused. So it's AX6. Here's the question. Is this molecule polar or non-polar?
Polar.
Polar, why?
Because it's ionic.
Very good.
Yay.
I'll never forget that one again.
That's how you do this. Let me give you all one more just for good measure. See how far you've gotten homework 3 right. I believe, is there electronegativity value for Bi on your table?
Yes.
Bi is there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So bismuth 3 chloride, and I want you to solve the homework. I mean, solve this problem from a homework perspective of A through G. Again, this is the first part that we did has nothing to do with the homework 4. This getting the formula is purely has to do with your homework 3. That's only a week ago.
It seems like a lifetime.
I know.
Yeah, it really feels like that though. But keep in mind, we are keeping the amount of math that you do to the least possible. This is probably the most qualitative chemistry class I have ever taught in my life.
Yeah, I like this one.
The only math you have really done here is the electronegativity difference. Other than that, I don't really see what big math you've done the entire class.
No.
Said that too early. Week 6 will be full of math, so
you're kidding, right?
I have the videos ready. I'll be posting it tomorrow.
No math, no math, no math.
Week 6, and then week 7 I'll teach. I had a couple of questions for you all, but I'll ask at the very end. You may ask me, why do I need to know this? Is because, like I said, on those exams, these heavy metals have, even trace quantities are good for us in our body, like bismuth, lead. If they're overly, in a higher concentration, they can turn out to be fatal. But at really, really low concentrations, I think you do need them for your smooth everyday life. And you do need to know, like, omeprazole's got manganese, right? Have you ever looked at omeprazole? Omeprazole, is that what you say?
Yeah.
Got manganese, right?
Yep.
So you do need small quantities of that manganese to prevent heartburn. But if you to consume a lot of manganese, you probably will die. But so they want you to know that whether can you write this formula as a nurse or a doctor. If you can, then that's a problem for themselves. So, all right, let's get started. Does anyone have the formula for bismuth 3 chloride?
If I did it right, it's BiCl3.
That is correct.
Yay.
Did you get it, Lowell?
I did.
All right, very good. From here, you work your way one step at a time through A through G. What's the electronegativity difference of?
1.1.
What is it?
1.1.
Okay, 1.1, right?
Right.
So is this really ionic compound?
No.
Right?
No.
What is it then?
It's polar covalent.
Now, again, you have to go by the face value, okay? Don't change your logic, okay? This part is purely based on the value above, okay? Why is this polar covalent? I can tell you why it's not ionic, because bismuth is a metalloid, okay? It has some metal, some non-metal property, which is why it turned out to be polar covalent, which means it is sort of 60 metal, 40 non-metal, but we're not going to go in there. But I'm telling you, you may ask me, hey, you said bismuth is metal, so shouldn't it be ionic? Well, it's not purely full metal. It's 60, 70 metal, and the 30 is not metal, which is what led to that low value of 1.1 and it's polar covalent. All right, let's draw the electron structure. How many electrons do I have around bismuth? How many electrons am I going to distribute around bismuth?
5.
5?
Yeah.
Where am I? Hold on.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
No,
5.
not 5. Not 5. Don't look at the column Roman numeral. Look at what's in the question.
1?
There's no 5. It should be only 3, right? Bismuth is 3 here in this question. It's 3, not 5. I think you're using the Roman numeral from the column.
I am.
I am.
Why shouldn't you use it? Because if it is 5, I would have given you 5. because
No,
it's outer.
we're making the picture, so we'll do 3 chlorines around bismuth.
Yes, so 3 dots, right? Well, again, going back to the same exact thing we did previously, the 3 is tagged to the bismuth, right? Right? When I give you okay, Peggy, when I give you Roman numeral, you cannot use the column number, okay? That's why I'm specifically telling you, don't use any other number. You only use the column number when nothing is provided. Here I've specifically told 3. So if you said 5, then it should have been BiCl5, but it's BiCl3. That's why I keep telling the 3 is only tagged to the bismuth, and bismuth is a sort of a metal / non-metal, but still we're going to give that. As I said, it's more 70, 80 metal, 20 non-metal. So it's still metal, so it's 3 plus, and chlorine is 1 minus. So that's how we got BiCl3. What does the 3 means? It only has 3 electrons to share with. It doesn't have 5, okay?
Yep,
Does that
I got
make sense, Level? The Roman numeral, what tells you how many electron is around the central atom level. So if it's 5, it's 5. If it's 3, there's only 3, okay?
Okay, it's whatever you give us, okay.
Yes, because it's not like a rule, but it is really what is available. Think of it that way. Don't think of it like a rule, like I'm telling you it's 3, it's 3. It's not that way. It's more like that's what it's available. Out of the 5, it only has 3 available to share, okay?
Okay.
It doesn't have all 5 because this compound is not about 5. You can do 1 with 5 if that's something you want to do, but
no.
Now we got to do chlorine, so let's go get the chlorine in.
So the chlorine, we would use the Roman numeral, right?
Yes, because chlorine is a non-metal. The Roman numeral that you see in this question is only tagged to the bismuth.
To the bismuth, okay.
So chlorine still has 7, so that means that is still 7 electrons, and I think let me go back and actually align it with the dot so it looks kind of straight up. Now again, do I have to be perfectly like a triangle like the way you draw? I think that comes from me practiced that way for years. If you don't get it perfectly aligned, it's really not a big deal because you will not be drawing this on a test because I don't know how you can do that on a multiple choice on the internet. You probably can't do that. You need
Please don't figure it out. This is good.
No, you would need the virtual pen like the one I have. For you to do this electronically, the only way you can do this is you would have to have a virtual pen, and I don't think any of you want to invest in a $60 pen.
Nope.
I mean, you can get a dollar pen at a dollar store. So this pen is very expensive, it's almost $60.
Yeah, no. If you catch me after December, if I make it through nursing and graduate, then I'll buy one.
Yes. So if you plan on teaching a nursing course in the future to your fellow nurses, and you become a part-time instructor for a nursing course, if that is something you're interested in teaching to other people.
Have you seen those kids over there? They're rude, unruly, wild. No, I'm too old for that.
So if you ever want to become an instructor for nursing course and you teach a class online, because most nursing classes are moved online these days, you would need a virtual pen. So now we have ours done, right? Now, Peggy, karma comes back. So this is what you started the day with. So I'll throw that back at you. Help me with, does this structure will have an arrow or full positive, negative, or nothing? Just tell me one answer for it.
Arrow.
Okay.
It's going to have the arrow.
All right. So which of the two will get the head and which will get the tail?
The bi will get the tail.
Okay.
And the head points towards the chlorine.
Very good. That means you have mastered it. So from what I've seen, the two of you just today, I think because you're only 2 participants I have, you still can't forget week 3 homework, okay? This is just week 3 homework. Just because you see it in a week 4 problem does not make it any different. This is week 3 homework, straight up. Some of these were exactly in week 3 homework.
Yeah.
Same thing.
just this is asking a lot, but like when you put it on the exam or something, could you like throw a little tidbit when you send that little email out and say, remember, don't forget week 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5.
Well, I can put that up. As I said, I've challenged students a million times. As I've said, one of my tests one time was all none of the above. And I told students prior, you can expect none of the above as answer choices. I think they did change their mind because they think he's never going to put none of the above for the entire test. And I did.
You did.
I'm going to ask them that. So to help you, yeah, I can say on top of the test, this test covers every single video you've ever seen.
Perfect. Just as a reminder, so I have all my papers.
I think that's actually not helpful because then it scares you that you have to remember all those videos. So, but anyways, to make you happy, I will definitely put that information up there. And as I said to both of you, I think you, I don't know if you were there at that time, before you start the final, I will probably send a list of documents you may have to download and have it ready, because sometimes unless if you're already on the Moodle page taking the test, it won't let you sometimes go to the different link and it says leave or stay, and if you click leave, it's going to kick you out of the test.
Okay.
If you're on a Moodle page taking a test and then you want to go download some document and you accidentally click on some other link on that same screen, it'll ask you to leave or stay. You better say stay. If you click leave, it'll take you to that new link you want to go, but it's going to kick you out of the exam.
Okay. So, can we have our notes for the final, or?
Yes, you will. I mean, we will do a practice exam, okay? That will run through every material we have learned. I will post a practice exam towards the end of week 7, because this is an 8-week class, right? So we will learn material only up till end of week 7. We will not learn anything new in week 8. Because week 8 is the finals week, technically. How can I be teaching and also give a final that same week?
Right.
So I will probably post a practice exam for the entire course towards end of week 7, like Friday or Saturday. And you have to like Wednesday to practice it. And we will have a Zoom session that Wednesday, and the test will open Thursday morning, the week of 8/8.
Okay.
Like you had your first exam, it'll open Thursday morning, will close Sunday night.
Okay.
And
yeah, I won't.
There will be no, I will send all this information by email. I don't expect to remember any of this. There will be no homework or quiz for week 8. So when that Monday starts, there will be nothing due.
Yes.
But however, there will be a quiz or homework that will carry into week 8 for the redos.
Okay.
The redos is, I'll give you time, right? So if you finish week 7 homework and quiz and there's a redo available on the homework and you want to do it, you would still turn that in week 8, but there will be no homeworks or quiz the week of 8, because that leads to so much chaos, because I cannot be teaching something and also be testing it at the same time.
Okay.
So that whatever you see up until week 7 videos is the last time you will see any new videos. Week 8, there will be no videos. That's the finals week for you all, at least. So I can't be teaching any new material that week. However, any quiz or homework posted must be completed by that deadline. And I believe some of you might redo homework 8 because it will be on homework 7. At least it will be on the quiz. So, all right, with that said, let's finish this one. So D, we just did that. E, what's the decrypted code? It'll be AX3, right?
Yeah.
Now here's the moment of, so AX3 electron geometry would be, I think, trigonal planar, right?
Yeah.
Now, is this molecule polar or non-polar?
Non-polar.
Very good, because it is not ionic. It must have an E for it to be polar. So it's non-polar. So the only difference between everything, we've done like 5 molecules today, and the only difference between this and homework 5 is this right here. It's the component F. That's the only thing that is different between week 4 and week 5 homework. Is the I purposefully did that because you're not going to be able to get all this in one attempt. But if you redo the homework from a different perspective, you get more practice again on the rest of the components. That's why I purposefully kept even the compounds the same. So if you have to download the molecular geometry table from week 5, otherwise everything else is exactly the same.
Can I ask you a question on the homework?
Yes.
And it was on 4 and 5. The I don't know what it is, the NCl5.
Okay.
I couldn't, well, you saw it just doesn't make sense. Why do they say that it doesn't exist?
What does it mean?
I don't know.
Where does it say it doesn't exist?
Oh, when I was just trying to, my son was helping me. He really likes this, and he says technically this you can't make a what do you call it? The geometry, he said there is no, like, it's P. I think he said PCl5.
Okay, that's because if you Googled it, NCl5 may not be a compound that's reported, but NCl5 is possible. PCl5 has more practical applications. That's why it's available. Means it is found on the internet. NCl5 is not found on the internet, but it is possible because nobody needed that.
Okay, but it really is a compound.
Yes, NCl5 is also a compound, but nobody needs NCl5, so they don't create it.
Okay,
that's what they create that. It's about creation and not creation.
Okay, because I couldn't understand that.
They needed it. NCl5 doesn't exist, has nothing to do with that compound being never made. It's just that no one finds a need for it. But if P can make Cl5, N can also make Cl5.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out, and I was like, it just didn't make any sense to me. I was like, he wouldn't have put it on the homework twice in a row if it wasn't.
No. Don't go by the internet, okay?
No, I don't. The internet is not my friend.
No, PCl5 has a practical purpose, so someone has a need to synthesize it. NCl5 has no practical purpose, so no one has a need to synthesize it. But if I keep giving PCl5, your brain just get engrossed in it. If I give NCl5, your brain is just thrown off. That's why I'm giving different examples just to get your brain used to that so that you can see it.
Yeah.
That's the only question you had on the NCl5.
That was it, because, my son...
Please do not input your own thoughts in. Use everything for its face value. That's the main key success to any chemistry classes. You don't change anything based on something that you may have heard or thought or likely think or believe. Like if you get a 1.1, even if it's a metal and a non-metal, you make the decision it's polar covalent, period.
Okay, like, and on this one, the NCl5, it's 0. So it's non-polar.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's 0.
And then if you solve the decrypted code, that also turns out to be AX5, which means, for a molecule to be non-polar, rarely is polar. It usually is also non-polar. The only exception was the PCl3 that we did. But again, it had some value. But if the value is a perfect 0, there is no way in the world that will ever be polar, even with a lone pair. Well, first, you will never have that run around to get there. Normally, thing is 0, like a perfect 0. Chances are it will never have that lone pair. That's the way the chemistry works.
Okay.
If it's a 0, there is no way it can be polar. A 0 tells me it has absolutely no polarity at all. Like a completely dead battery, okay? Like the first time a battery dies, if you try to light it with a small bulb, it might light up a little bit because it still has a little bit of charge left.
Right.
Dead batteries be sitting for a couple of years outside in the shelf. Whatever you do, it will not light up. So a electronegativity difference of 0 is equivalent to a completely dead battery that has no charge left in it.
Okay, and so when we would do the would this have arrows on it?
No, if it is 0, it's non-polar,
Zero.
right?
Okay, yeah,
If
okay.
it is
That's what I
between
wanted to,
0 and 0.6, it will
okay.
not have arrows, okay?
Okay. It
Now,
just kind of, it just was so much coming in it. And I, like you said, I think I was taking stuff from previous and trying to input it on this, and it wasn't working. And I was confusing myself.
now, week 6 and little bit of week 7 will finally have some math. And the reason we are doing that math is because if you graduate from my class and you cannot even basically read a concentration, that speaks really low of you as a nurse, okay? If you cannot read a dosage properly and tell what that dosage really means, then we have a problem. So everything you have learned until week 6 will be of no use if your nursing counselor asks you, hey, here's a dosage, can you tell me what can you say about this value itself? If you can't really say that, that speaks really low of you as a person not knowing that information. So that's why I kept it for the very, very last. And again, I will tie that to the formulas we've learned so that you don't think that's completely, it will be a little detached, but again, there's no way I can teach you dosage just from purely chemistry perspective. It has to be some math involved.
Right, right. No, no problem. I just,
This is in my so many years of teaching these kind of classes. This is the first time I went all out qualitative. I mean, 6 weeks of chemistry without any math is not something even I have tried, because sometimes somehow the math will sneak in and show its face. The most kind of math we've done is like electronegativity difference, or
yeah.
that's the most level of math we've done. So you can somehow get away with 6 weeks without math, but then week 6, I've already recorded the videos. It will be up tomorrow, and the week 6 quiz will start Monday morning.
Yeah, dosage
I'm working on getting them up because, as I said, I've already created week 6 prior, but I had to go back and create using the new template you see in front of you. So I recreated some of the videos again.
Okay.
So it looks more professional, like the university tag is there. Again, this is optional, so even if I don't have the midway symbol there, it's not something that's going to count against me. But since I am doing it, I might as well do it with some professional to it. So that's why I'm recreating some of the week 6 and 7 videos, and I will probably send an email to all of you summarizing what I've just told you.
That's okay.
No new videos will be posted for week 8. Week 8 is finals week for you. So
right.
be all about review, asking questions, stuff like that. So I would probably post a practice exam that will cover week 1 through 7 material on Moodle, probably by the end of week 7, like that weekend. So you will have to like Wednesday before we have our final Zoom session, because I will not have Zoom session on it once the exam opens, because we will have questions actually on the exam itself, and I can't allow that.
Right.
Just like last time, we will have our Zoom session that Wednesday before exam starts, and then the final exam will start Thursday morning of week 8 at 6:30 a.m. and we'll close 11:59 p.m. that Sunday.
But we'll be able, because I won't, I'm sorry, sweetie. I won't be able to join a Wednesday night Zoom session.
But again, you can watch it just like last time.
Okay, that's.
If you're not sure about something that we did in 6 and 7, I highly recommend you watch the Zoom session.
Right.
Practice exam. The Zoom session will not be about any particular week.
Right. Okay.
Because the exam has been posted 5 days prior to the Zoom session. Everybody should have made. It will be unlimited attempts, unlimited times, everything for the practice exam, so you can practice as many times as you want. So when we meet for the Wednesday session, the questioning will be purely about the practice exam. And then their actual exam will start Thursday morning at 6:30 and will close at Sunday midnight at 11:59. You get only one attempt, just like last time. It will be timed to 2 hours. And again, you can take it anytime within that window. But I highly recommend you watch that practice exam Zoom session recorded before you even make an attempt on the test.
Okay.
Because that's practice exam. It's not going to be exact replica of what will be on the final, but you need to be brought back to speed on everything that's happened in the class. That's the purpose of the practice exam. And if you can make it, that's okay. I will record that Zoom session. That it will be called practice Q&A exam session, and anything that happens in there. Again, if you've taken the practice exam and you got 9 out of 10 questions right, you may not even need to watch that Zoom session video. But if you've taken the practice exam like 6 times and you repeatedly get the same thing wrong every single time, then maybe someone else might also have that problem. Then you can watch the Zoom session for that particular issue that you might have.
Okay.
I can tell you, like when I gave the name and have write the formula, that is still, there's a little bit of gray side to some of you still working that formula out given a name. There's still a little bit of gray side about it. And the only way you're going to get over it is like you did on the internet, go pick some, just type transition metal compound names.
Okay.
There should be a long list of 200-300 compounds. Just type transition metal compound names, and then it'll give you a bunch of names. Pick as many as you want and write everything you can. And if you see something that you've never seen in this course, don't even try that, because we didn't explore every single negative ions in this class. We've explored only 7 or 10 odd ions. So
yeah, I tried to get my son to help me because he loves chemistry and he does really well in it, but he's so far above me, he couldn't break it down to where I could understand it like you do. So it's like,
what does he do?
He's a student. He's going to be a nurse practitioner also, but he's at BCTC right now. Okay.
So he has already taken the chemistry classes.
Yeah, he's like on the 3rd one up or something.
Now, that was my last question for some of you whoever came here. Now, have you learned about dosage at all in any of your other nursing classes, like how to calculate the number of IV drops and how to calculate how much is dispensed, things like that? Have you ever learned it so far, is the question.
I have. I know how to do it. They did not teach it. They gave us a test and, you're going to have a test on dosage calculations. Okay. Here's a practice packet, and we practice, and then we took the test. So I can do, that's not, to me, that's not algebra. That's, like you said, it's saving a life or, potentially killing someone if you don't do it right.
Yeah, so, I will be fair, because technically this is not a nursing or dental or pharmacy or medicine class. This is technically a chemistry class. So week 6 and 7 will purely focus chemistry calculations, but then I will relate it to a couple of those. Remember you said that dosage calculation test? I will take a couple of questions from there and relate it to how the concentration calculation we learned in our class relates to the two. So don't expect too many dosage questions itself on the test, because this is again not a pure nursing or medical school class. Yeah. That's up to them to come back and touch that. But my job is for you to see that how a simple basic concentration calculation can help you relate that knowledge to something more comprehensive like a dosage calculation. If you've never seen how to dilute something, how to concentrate something, if you can't do that basic calculation, the dosage calculation is always going to be difficult for you. So I'm just only going to relate those two, but I cannot make this test entirely about dosage, because this is purely not a nursing or pharmacy or those classes. Again, even pharmacists, they learn it, but I think they get some kind of software in the back of their store that everything that's in the pharmacy, the RX prescription, and the computer calculates it for them. So they depend actually on the computer to make the correct choice. If the computer has made a mistake, then they're going to give that dosage to the person without actually knowing whether they did the calculation right or wrong. And I think a lot of the times the manual effort is what I value the most than a computer would. But again, I will not make a test entirely out of dosage calculation, because that's not the focus of this class. But we will learn how to do basic concentration calculation for chemical. Good. And then I will have 1-2 questions most, if not, how to relate this knowledge. And I would have probably worked a problem for that. I'm not expecting you to do it on your own. It will be sometime end of week 7 video. You will see that I'm relating the chemistry concentration to the nursing dosage concentration. That's where
Cool.
we finish. And then I've already recorded the videos for week 6 and 7, but I need to fine tune it before I upload it. But it'll all be uploaded sometime tomorrow. And then the quiz
Okay.
and homework should also be available. You got any questions, Lavo?
No,
You good?
I hope not. I will once.
Well, again, once I get off and you do the things on your own, that's when you figure out what you're doing wrong. Now, here's what I want you to do. Since almost every component of homework 4 is same as homework 5, don't use any of my comments or any of your work from homework 4. Put that away. Approach homework 5 like you've never done homework 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Components A, B, C, D, E, and G are exactly the same. It's only F that is different. So if you've done homework 4 and I've given you some comments, work on that just to redo homework 4. But when you start homework 5, put everything away and start like you're doing homework 4 again. Only then you exactly will know what part you didn't understand in week 3 and week 4, which is homework 3 and homework 4. If you consistently use your resources or my comments, you would never even understand what you do wrong or what you don't understand. Okay?
Yep. Mine was
Coming on,
the errors.
we're coming on to the end of our session. It's almost 6:30. So I'm going to stop here and then I'm going to record this and post it on YouTube by the end of the day today. All right?
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. This
No
helps.
problem. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.